Alright, this is Coach Williams, and we are back. We are going to do the second part to our midterm review for Algebra 1. Hopefully you've watched the first video, and this is the part 2 to that one. We're going to finish the rest of these questions. We have 60 questions total. We probably will not work every question out, as some of them are repetitive, and I want to get to as many examples as possible of different concepts. And then at the end of the test, I want to give you a few examples of some things that you may also see on the test that may not have covered in great detail so far on the review. Don't forget that you can use a half-page cheat sheet, front and back, a half piece of paper, front and back for whatever examples, notes, problems worked out, formulas, whatever that's going to help you on the midterm exam. And then we are also offering this to all Algebra 1 classes for this cycle. If you will turn in your review packet for this midterm completed on the date of your midterm, because we want you to keep that to study by. If you will turn that in completed, worked out problems like we've worked them out here on the videos and in class, if you'll work those out, turn it in, it'll be a 100 towards your lowest daily grade. So it'll replace your lowest daily grade that you have for this cycle. Again, don't forget your midterm counts as 20% of your semester grade, but the midterm does not affect your cycle grade. But we are offering that if you turn in this packet filled out, it will replace your lowest daily grade for this cycle to help improve your averages. All right, let's get started. Number 30, it's asking us to find the value of x so that the function has the given value. We want the function to equal 17. The function is 2x plus 7. And all we're going to do is, instead of n plus x, we want to set this function equal to 17. Alright? And there's multiple ways to look at this. We know that y equals mx plus b. We could also say that f of x equals mx plus b. We know that when we look at this right here, that this is really like n of x, g of x, h of x, f of x, whatever that we've seen in the past. This is simply, we're plugging in some x value, and we want 17 to come out. Y is the same as the f of x, or n of x. So what value do we put in that makes 17 come out? And so we just set the whole equation equal to the 17 to find out what x value we will need. So in doing that, I'm going to rewrite it like this. 2x plus 7 is supposed to equal 17. What is the x value? We're going to solve for x. We're going to move this to the other side. So we're going to subtract it from both sides. 2x is going to equal 10 when we subtract 7 from 17. We'll divide by 2 on both sides, and x is going to equal a positive 5. X is going to equal a positive 5 when we divide 10 by 2. So the answer to 30 is C. Again, we're going to move rather quickly, so if you need to pause this and catch up, then you'll have that ability if you're watching the videos. This is a problem where we had to pick out the graph of this equation that's been given. Again, remember, f of x is the same thing as y, so y equals negative 2. And anytime y equals a constant and there is no x term, this is a horizontal line. So anytime we have y equals some constant, there's no x term, we're going to have a horizontal line. So we're not going to have a vertical line. That's not going to work. We're not going to have a vertical line on D. We're going to have a horizontal line like C and B. And then it's going to be a horizontal line at the value negative 2. And so B would be your answer because the line passes through negative 2 right there. This is my horizontal line that passes through that. That is y equals negative 2. All right, let's move along to number 32. Number 32, we have x plus 2 is our equation. They want us to find the graph of that equation. If you'll notice, there's going to be several things I'm going to do. The very first steps that I will say are the most important. Let's see if we can find the slope and the y-intercept. If we can find some of these key pieces, we can locate the graph really quickly. The slope here is a positive 1. The y-intercept is everything after the x there. It's a positive 2. And the slope, obviously, just 1 over 1. It's positive. So we're looking for a graph that has a slope moving from left to right. It's going to be moving up from left to right in the positive direction. If a slope is moving from left to right down, that's negative, but in this case we're looking for a positive slope. So A and C are not going to be options. We're looking at B or D. And then the next thing we can look at is the y-intercept. It's going to cross the y-axis at 2. So which one out of B and D crosses at a positive 2? D. D crosses at a positive 2 right here. This one's a negative 2. This will be a positive 2. So D should be the answer on 32. All right, let's move to 33. This one, again, I'm going to pull out the slope, and I'm going to pull out the y-intercept. The slope is everything in front of x, including the sign. It's a negative 1/2. B is, on this one again, a positive 2. So I'm looking for something that crosses the y-axis at 2. That's going in the negative direction, which means from left to right, it's going down. So I'm looking for either A or C, because those are the only 2 negative ones. B and D are not negative, they're positive. So I'm looking at A or C, and I need to go through a positive 2 with this line. And the only positive 2 I have is right there. This one's at a negative 2, so A should be the answer on 33. On 34, we're asked to describe the slope of the line and then find the slope. This one is pretty simple. This is a vertical line. Remember that a horizontal line was y equals some value, and a horizontal line has a slope of 0. If you think about the equation, there's no x term, and the way that x term goes away is it's been multiplied by 0. And 0 times x is 0, so it makes the x disappear. In this case, we have a vertical line. And the 0 ends up, in a sense, it ends up on the bottom of our slope fraction, if you want to call that. And we cannot divide by a 0. And so because we can't divide by 0, the change in x is 0, and it's the change of x is on the bottom of our slope fraction, right? The change in y over the change in x. So if something is 0, or if the x value is 0, the bottom fraction is 0, then the slope is going to be undefined. It's a vertical line. It will be undefined. And because it's undefined, there is no slope. All right, looking at 35. 35, they want us to, again, find the slope, describe it, define the slope. This is going down from left to right. We're moving down from left to right. And so this is going to be a negative slope. So it's not going to be B. It's not going to be C. It's a negative slope. From the graph, we can take these 2 points and we can just use the grid to help us find. We're going to go down 1. So the slope is going to be down 1. Change in y is going to be a negative 1. Change in x is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're looking for a negative 1/4 slope, and that's going to be D for the answer on 35. All right, you could actually take these 2 points, plug them into the 2-point slope formula, and find the slope that way. But given the graph, it's just as easy to actually count from left to right. We always move from the left point to the right point, and we always do our change in y first, then do our change in x. Change in y on the top, change in x on the bottom. Number 36. Let f of x equal 2 minus 3 and g of x equal f of x plus 3. Use the graphs of f and g to describe the transformations from the graph of f to the graph of g. All right, this is the graph of f. This is the graph of g. Now, one thing that I'm going to give you some tips on, this is something you definitely want to write down and study on transformations. You're going to look at this. Anytime the change, I'm going to write this in here, the change is on the inside. Okay, the change is on the inside of the parentheses there. It's a change to the x. So I'm going to put the little x. This is an x change. It's on the inside. Okay, so we're changing the value of the x value. And anytime you change the value of x, what are you doing? You're changing the value on this x-axis. So where are you going? Is it going to be a vertical or horizontal change? Well, you're moving left and right. So that's a horizontal change. If I'm moving up and down, that's a vertical change. Okay? And if you think about it, if we had it on the outside, a y change is on the outside of the parentheses is what we're talking about here, right? So the y change would be on the outside, and a y change is an up or a down. An x change is going to be a left or a right. Okay, so we're going to move left to right, horizontal. If it's inside, we're going to move up or down. If it's an outside, changes on the outside. Okay, and then remember this. If it's f of x minus and f of x plus, these are going to go certain directions. Okay, if it's minus, it's moving to the right. If it's plus, it moves to the left. And I know that's a little bit opposite of what we normally think. But if we're changing the value of x and we're adding to it, it's actually moving the graph left. So this is x plus 3. We're moving it left, and it is an x change, so it is a left and right is a horizontal change. If you'll notice here, we're moving to the left, 3 units left, it's a horizontal translation. The answer to 36 should be D. Okay, all right, moving along to number 37. On 37, they're asking us to write the equation of a line with a given slope and the y-intercept. This is going to be extremely simple and extremely quick. We're looking at putting it in this form. They give us the slope, which is m. They give us the y-intercept, which is our b. So all we have to do is just drop these values into this formula, or this form here, and we've got the answer. So y is going to equal the slope, -3, times x, plus a -6 means we're going to minus 6, plus a negative is -6. So this is our answer, and D is the answer to 37. All right, on to number 38. Again, they give us the slope. They give us the y-intercept. They want us to write the equation. So y is going to equal the slope, -1/3 x, plus b. In other words, or in this case, it's a negative. So plus means, or plus and negative means minus. So we're going to have -1. That's my equation. So the answer to 38 should be B. 39. Write the equation of the slope in the slope-intercept form. Now, this one's pretty simple too. They give us the slope in the graph, and they give us the y-intercept on the graph. What is my y-intercept for this line? Where does it pass through or cross the y-axis? -5. Crosses right there at -5. And then my slope, moving from the left to the right, going in the y direction first. Notice here that this is going by 2. So in the middle is my 3s, 1s, and 5s. We're going to go 1, we're going to the middle, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go across 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope is -4 over 4, which is just simply a -1. So there's my slope. There's my y-intercept. My equation, y equals m x plus b, -5. Or simply you can just take the 1 away. Y equals -x minus 5. That should be my equation for 39. And the answer should be B. Not too difficult. If you learn how to pick out those pieces And you can just drop them right into your formula. You're in good shape. All right, number 40, we have a horizontal line. Again, a horizontal line is going to be an equation that looks like y equals a constant. What is the value of that constant? Well, it is the value of a point, the y value of a point on that line. So the y value in both these points is what? 4. And so y equals 4 on every point on this line. Y equals 4 is the equation of this horizontal line, which is going to be B as well. All right, moving along to number 41. Number 41, what is the y-intercept here? Should be really simple. Where does it cross the y-axis? 0. Okay, 0. So immediately we can look at these equations and know that has a y-intercept of 2, that's a y-intercept of -2. That's not going to work because our y-intercept is 0. It's like having zeros out here on the end. Now, it's also a negative slope. Both of these are negative, so that's not a hint or a clue to get rid of one of them. But let's go ahead and find our slope. We're going to go down 1, 2. So our slope is a -2 over 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope is a -1/2. And so our equation is going to be y equals the slope times x plus 0, or plus the y-intercept there, b, plus b. So it's just going to be y equals -1/2. The answer should be C on 41. All right, number 42. Write an equation of the line that passes through the given points. Okay, so we're going to write an equation of the line that passes through the given points. We can notice some things really quickly as we look at these 2 points. They give us the y-intercept because they gave us a point where x is 0. When x is 0, that is your y-intercept. And the y-intercept is going to be -1. But look at the other point. What's the value in both of these points for y? What's the y value for both points? -1 and -1. If I'm just looking at this, I've got a line that goes through here, -1. -1 at 0, -1 at -5. What kind of line is that? It's a horizontal line. And so a horizontal line is y equals a constant, and the constant is the y value in one of the points. So y equals a -1 is my answer for 42. Now if I needed to find the slope by using my formula, I could say y2 minus y1. So -1 minus a -1, all over 0 minus a -5. And I would have known that this would be plus, and that puts a 0 on top. And anytime I have 0 on top, my slope is 0. And if my slope is 0, I know that it is a horizontal line, and y just equals the y value in the points. Okay? Number 43. Number 43, write an equation in point-slope form. Well, point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That is point-slope form. We want to write it that passes through the given point and has the given slope. So here's my point. There's my slope. Drop it into the formula. We're done. Y minus 2 is going to equal the slope of -3 times x minus the -3 means x plus 3. So where do we have that one? Answer should be B, 40 on 43. Y minus 2 equals -3 times x plus 3 in parentheses. All right, let's move along to 44. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line shown. Now, they don't give us the point, but the line crosses the y-axis right at a grid crossing or grid mark here where y equals 2. So this is 0, 2 if you're looking at that. So I can find out what my y-intercept is. It's going to be 2. And then from this point to here, or from here to there, or from this point to the one we created, doesn't matter. I can find my slope by just looking at the graph and counting spaces. So I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a negative, so the slope is negative 3 over 6, which is the same thing as negative 1/2. So my equation, y equals mx plus b. So the answer to 44 should be C. All right, C should be the answer to 44. And we'll move along. Actually, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Sorry, it should be B. I'm sorry. Should be B. Negative 1/2 plus. This is negative 2, sorry. Should be B. Sorry, wrote the wrong one in there. Okay, 45. On 45, it says write a linear function f with the values f of 2 equals negative 1, f of 5 equals 4. Well, we've learned already in previous lessons here, hopefully, because this is our midterm, we should have covered this, that this just simply means this is my x value and that's my y value, and that is a coordinate or a solution to this system. So I have a point at 2, negative 1. If I plug a 2 in, out comes a negative 1. If I plug a 5 in, I'm going to get 4. So I have another ordered pair or solution point at 5, 4. So they give us 2 points, x and y values, on this line. And if I have 2 points, then I can find the slope of the line. And if I can find the slope of the line and I have a point, then I can find the y-intercept or the equation of the line itself too. All right, so in this case, if you'll notice, every slope is what? Different. So all I should have to do in this case is just find the slope. If I can find the slope, then I don't have to worry about the rest of it because all the slopes are different. So if I find the slope, I'll find the equation of this particular linear function that passes through these points or has these values. So the slope, 2-point slope form, is going to be y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So 4 minus a negative 1 is 4 plus 1, which is 5. 5 minus 2 is a positive 3. I'm looking for that slope, and where do I find it? On A. So A should be my answer. I could do the rest of the work if I needed to. I could take this slope and 1 point, plug it into my point slope form, and I could find the equation that way. But since there is only 1 5/3 slope, then I can stop right there and I know my answer. All right, on 46, write an equation of the line that passes through the given point and is parallel to the given line. And we are going to be repetitive in this. I'm going to be consistent. Parallel means same slope. So we want our slope to be the same slope as that right there. And if that is the same slope as what I'm looking for, then I can take that slope and this point, and I can plug it into my y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus the x value. And then I can rearrange this to look like the points or the slope-intercept form that they give us in our answer choices. So I can multiply the negative 3/2 times x and the negative 3/2 times the negative 4, and I'm going to get y minus 5 equals negative 3/2 x. Negative times negative is going to be a positive. And if I'm looking at this, this is like a 4/1. So we multiply across the top, we get 12. Multiply across the bottom, I get 2. Which is the same thing as what? 12 divided by 2 is 6. Alright, so then I'm going to move the negative 5 to the other side meaning I'm going to add 5 to both sides. When I do, the resulting equation is going to be y equals negative 3/2 x plus 6 plus 5, which is 11. So the answer to 46, negative 3/2 plus 11, should be C on 46. Number 47. Write an equation of the line that passes through the given points and is perpendicular to the given line. This is going to mean opposite reciprocal. Okay? Meaning this. What is my current slope? It's 1/3. Well, perpendicular to that is an opposite sign, reciprocal, meaning we flip the fraction. So this is the slope that I need to use when I'm plugging it into my point slope formula to get my equation. This is my point. I'm going to use this slope. So y minus the y value means I'm going to add 4 equals negative 3. I'm going to leave it as a negative 3. It's negative 3 over 1, same thing, times x minus a negative 6 or plus 6. I'm going to distribute my negative 3. Y plus 4 is going to equal a negative 3x minus 18. I'm then going to take my negative 4 to the other side, which means I subtract it from both sides. Y is going to equal negative 3x minus 22. The answer should be D on 47. All right, moving along. 48. We're talking about correlation. Is this a positive, negative, or no correlation? We use our pencil or pen test here. If I can cover most of the points, this has a correlation. And then we look at it in terms of looking at a slope. Does this move downward from left to right? And it does. Does it move up from left to right? It does not. The slope of this is negative, so the correlation we have is negative. B should be the answer on 48. On 49, same thing. I can cover up most of the points in my pen, but this time it does go up from left to right. So this is a positive correlation on 49. All right, on 50. We've used this in the past in describing this. This scatter plot is too scattered. I cannot put my pen over most of the points because it's too scattered. There is no correlation. On 50, there's no correlation. On 51, it gives us a table. And my first inclination when I see a table on a test is to grab my calculator because I'm about to put those table values into my calculator and help me find the equation. Okay, and this should be pretty simple and pretty straightforward. I'm going to go to Stat on my calculator, which is right here below the delete sign. Okay, I'm going to hit, or delete key. I'm going to hit Stat, and I'm going to edit the list. I've got two lists of values, and I want to edit those lists. So I'm going to hit Enter. In my first list, I'm going to put all my X values. My second list, I'm going to put all the Y values. So I'm going to put into my calculator 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. And that is my first list. In my second list, I'm going to put 20.5, 18.4, 16.1, 11.4, 13.5, 13.5, 11.4, 8.8, and 6. All right, I should have the same number of values in both lists for this to work correctly. All right, so I then will go back to my Stat button. When I hit Stat, it's going to show me Edit, Calc, or Test. Calculate is what the calc stands for there. I'm going to move to Calculate. And I can either hit punch in the number 4 or arrow down to 4, and I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to let the calculator give me this equation. Okay, I'm going to go down and calculate. And if you'll notice, it's going to give me the m, or the slope, negative 1.2. It's going to give me my b, or my y-intercept, of 22. So the m is negative 1.2. The b is 22, roughly, rounding up. So my equation should be y equals negative 1.2x plus 22. Negative 1.2x plus 22. So the answer to 51 should be B. Okay? B on 51. And that's just using linear regression, our stat button to find our values for us. And that's going to be very handy if you get the hang of that. Okay, moving along. Write the next 3 terms of the arithmetic sequence. And we've gone over this in previous, this is in chapter 4, I believe, that we've gone over this one. And so we're looking for a common difference between each value. And in this case, I am going down negative 8. And 19 minus 11 is a negative. It's going to be 8, so I'm going down negative 8. I'm going down negative 8 there. Going down 8 here. So the next 3 terms, I'm going to have to subtract 8 from negative 5, which is going to give me a negative 13. Then I subtract 8 again, which will give me a negative 21. I subtract 8 again, which should give me a negative 29. So negative 13, negative 21, negative 29 should be the next 3 terms of that arithmetic sequence. Number 53. If I put this in the calculator, 8.6 minus 7.7. I'm going to get 0.9. So the difference, the common difference between these is 0.9. And it's positive, so I'm adding 0.9 to everything. So this next one's going to be 11.3. The next one will be 12.2. And the next one will be 13.1. So this should be answered choice D for 53. For 54 and 55, we're actually asked to write the equation of the nth term and then find the 10th term. Well, this is my arithmetic sequence. I need to find 2 things because my equation is a to the n equals a sub 1, the first term, plus n minus 1 times d, or the common difference. So the first 2 things I need to find are a1 and d. The first term is negative 2. The common difference between each one of these is 7. There's 7 between each one of those terms. Okay? So I can write the equation a to the n is equal to the first term, negative 2, plus n minus 1 times the common difference of 7. And then I can just simplify this down. I'm going to take my 7 and distribute it into the parentheses here. So a to the n is going to equal negative 2 plus 7n minus 7. When I combine my like terms, I'm going to have a to the n equals, I'm going to put the 7n in front, minus 9. Okay, so it's going to be one of these 2 equations because these have plus 9, and that's not what I'm looking for. When I plug in 10 for n, 70 minus 9 is 61. So I'm looking for this equation and that value, and that is C for 54. So again, this is going to be one of the formulas that you'll want to make sure you've got on your cheat sheet, and we should have these formulas written down for some of these formulas written down for you as well. The next problem, we're going to do the same thing. The common difference in all of these is a negative 4. So my A1 is 13. My common difference is a negative 4. So, work it out right here. A to the n is going to equal 13 is my first term, plus n minus 1 times negative 4. I'm going to distribute that negative 4n to both of these terms in the parentheses here. A to the n is going to equal 13 plus a negative 4n plus 4, right? Negative 4n, negative 1 times negative 4 is positive. I'll combine my terms here that are like terms, and I'll move this over here. A to the n is going to equal negative 4n plus 17. So that gets rid of A and C because they have minus 17. When I plug in 10 for n, A sub 10 here, negative 4 times 10 plus 17 is a negative 40 plus 17, which is going to be negative 23. So the answer to 55 is going to be B. I'm looking for that equation and that A to the 10th or A sub 10th value there. Okay, these last ones, I'm not going to work these out in great detail. We know how to do this. We've got an ordered pair. We're just supposed to find out if this ordered pair is a solution to this system of equations. We just plug the values in and see if it makes both of them true. And if it does, make both of them true, then it is a solution to the system. So on number 56 and 57, I'm just going to give you the answers here. This one's A, this one's B. You can work those out. I'm also just going to give you the answers to 58 through 60. Again, you can work these out multiple ways. Solve the systems of linear equations. We could solve these by substitution. We could solve them by elimination. We can also solve it by graphing. And we could just plug in this value and see if it works for both equations. If it doesn't, then we mark it out and we try that value. And then we try that value. And then we try that value just like we did on 56 and 57. So there's multiple ways to find these values. And if you'll look at the videos for 5.1 through 5.3, notes and practice, you'll see all these examples that we did, graphing, substitution, elimination, for these type equations. And again, last resort, you could just plug in each value and see if it works, and you'll be able to tell whether it is a solution of the system of linear equations or not. So the answers to the last ones here, 58 is A, 59 is D, and 60 is C. Okay, so that is the conclusion of the review packet, but let me give you a few examples of things you might see on the test. You may want to make sure that you're familiar with. All right, if you're given tables of values, remember to use your calculator if you can do that to find the equations. So if you're using tables, or you see tables listed like this, or where you have x and y values, or you see it listed like this, x and y values, you can use your calculator to help you find the equations. If they tell you, or they say x varies directly as y, and then that's telling you that it is a linear equation. If there's a constant rate of change, if they have a direct variation, okay, if there's a direct variation, all right, then that means there is a slope or a constant rate of change. Okay, these are all the same thing. Okay, that means this is a linear equation. And we can write linear equations in multiple forms. All right, what you're looking for if you saw values like 2, 4, 6 for x, and y values of 6, 12, 18. We'll do one more. What are the values changing by for x? They're changing by 2. What are the values for y changing by? 6, right? So my constant of a rate of change here, or my variation, my slope is going to be the change in y over the change in x. And we've talked about what that little triangle means. It's delta, and delta just means change. The change in y over the change in x, the change in y is 6, the change in x is 2. So what is my slope? It's 3. Right? So I can find that out. If these are not constant, if the change between every one of these is not the same, it's not a linear equation. You can graph it and you can see it. Does it make a line? Or is it curved? If it's curved, it's not a linear equation. You need to know this too. If you've got inequalities graphed on a line, and let's say you have a solid dot here, a solid dot there, and this is 0, 1, 2, -1, -2, -3, -4, and it's shaded between those two dots. Okay? How do I write that inequality? This is x, and x has to be between two values. It's a solid dot, so it means it can be equal to as well, right? So x has to be greater than or equal to something, less than or equal to another value. What are my two values? Well, on the low end, it has to be greater than or equal to a -4. It has to be less than or equal to a +2. So know how to see those right there and work that type of equation as well. Okay? So those are some things you might see on the test. You're going to see a lot of examples that we worked, but they may be in the form of a word problem. They're still going to give you plenty of information so that you'll be able to solve the question without any problems. As long as you're confident with the things that we've gone over in this packet today, I believe that you'll, and yesterday, I believe that you'll be in good shape for the midterm. And remember your parallel, perpendicular lines. Remember your different forms of linear equations. Hope this has helped you guys. You guys do great on the midterm, and have a great day.